today are so good that if you're not using them, you're really missing the boat, because unlike when we had to put things on the shelf, it was kind of do or die. You know, you couldn't really do anything with it. But today, analytics, you can see things, you can look at them, you can tweak them, and all of a sudden, you just hit something that's like a sweet spot, and it just takes it. It's wonderful. So, you know, I love the world we're in today. You know, you don't have to go out and count all those orders.
Let's talk about quarters and blockbusters and breakout hits. Nolan and Tripp, as founders of billion-dollar consumer gaming companies. Maybe let's start with Tripp. Let's talk about, you know, when are we going to see the billion-dollar breakout in educational gaming? I guess some would say that we've already seen it with Minecraft, the significant use case of Minecraft around, you know, the pedagogical sort of learning value. The moderator that was to be here shot me sort of a note that he thought of Twitch TV, billion-dollar acquisition by Amazon. You know, for those not familiar, it's, you know, you're just sort of watching people play video games and it's a billion-dollar exit. But, you know, if you think about with that kind of interest in watching people do something, I mean, isn't that learning?
I don't actually think those examples have much to do with learning. I love Minecraft. And of course now it's an enormous product, enormous market, and it has a great future, I think, in learning and education. But that's certainly not what they set out to do. You know, I think the big picture here is that behaviorally, we all have this fundamental problem, which is it's hard to get people to pay for things on the internet and in the app stores. But that's going to change. So I think it is going to get better today. You guys might enjoy this question. Globally, how big do you think the market is for private tutors? And I'm talking about a math tutor that's going to help your kid get a better SAT score and get into college. What do you think that global market is for all that private tutoring every year?
12 billion?
It's approaching 150 billion.
Really?
Yeah. And by the way, we've all now heard about gluten-free foods. So those are two examples of human behavior that has commercial intent. And you know, everybody now understands that, yeah, you want your kid to go to college, and there's this gateway called the SAT, and they have to do well in math to do well in the SAT. So they care about it, they'll spend $75 an hour on a tutor. These same consumers refuse to spend money on the internet, refuse to spend money on apps. But let's see, how many of us today are actually spending money? I mean, how many of you have an app on your phone that you actually paid for or are subscribed to some kind of internet service? Yeah, we all are. And TV started out free. And when cable TV was introduced, the price was like $9 a month. There was no advertising. Pretty good deal, right? And the public really bitched and moaned and said, no, TV's free. So we're in a long-term process of building awareness with the public that really great internet services and really great apps have value and are worth paying for. And we're gradually seeing public behavior shift in that direction. So education is no exception to this. So there's not that much money in it today, in a way, because today we still have a lot of really great stuff that's free. If you think about the stuff that you use, like Google search, it's free. Pretty amazing. There's a lot of other services that are pretty darn valuable that are free. So it's gradually going to change. Also, the awareness is going to grow in the same way that it did with private tutors and gluten-free food. So the one thing that we can all do is just keep spreading the word and sharing with other people the value and the importance of some of this stuff. And there are going to be more and more examples to look at. And just consider how today a lot of parents have abdicated. You know, once upon a time they had some capacity to control the technologies that their children are using. Well, genie's way out of the bottle. We have digital natives today, and they've all got access to devices, and it just feels like the parents have surrendered. If there's enough wholesome learning content that's generated in the next 5 years, those parents will have the opportunity to curate what's on those platforms, on those devices, and offer their kids something that's really good. I think right now the parents actually don't know that there's anything that's good. I saw I saw a survey last year where parents were almost equally negative about the learning value, or even just the value of launching Angry Birds and playing Minecraft. Whereas there's a dramatic difference there in what learning is going on. Clearly, Angry Birds is learning a skill. It's just that skill has no relevance in the real world. You know, whereas there's a lot of stuff going on cognitively when kids are playing with Minecraft. So this is one of those cases where we need some time, and you know, all different things. Okay, what are you working on? What are you doing? It's going to take time. What time do you think?
What are your thoughts on seeing a big, massive breakout hit in educational field?
I just think that if you do a good job, there will never be a big breakout on education, because unlike games where you get multiple plays and there's really long-term value, if I'm doing my job right, 10 minutes. So what's that worth, that 10 minutes slice of education? Now, in the aggregate, how much would someone pay to truncate 4 years of college into 3 months, or 4 years of high school into 6 months? That's a lot of value. So if you take the educational experience as an aggregate, there's a potential to monetize it in a massive way. I mean, think about college education costing you $25,000 a year. Now, some of that's beer drinking and browsing around. But in terms of almost all. And what we really want to be able to do is, I feel like the education of the future is a really good online connection, and then a separate club, you know, with beer, you know, and so that could be your college experience.
Well, maybe David, you also have like a thoughts, especially being in partnership with a company that is all about these blockbusters.
I tell you, we spend a lot of time on this subject. If you go back and study this industry, all these comments are 100% dead on. If you study this industry, you would never guess what the #1 educational product of all time at consumer, at retail, ever was. You would never guess it if we sat here and went through all the Atari Pongs and all that. It's Scooby-Doo. Licensed products, when parents controlled, they took the biggest brands, they put education in them, and those were the products that your moms bought. That's what, because they had choices, and they bought the best brand that had educational value. So I think it is a matter of time, but it's also a matter of laws, right? The government wants to make it harder and harder for companies to make money with COPA and privacy and all this. So they say, well, there's only one model that can work. You can charge me money, but if I don't pay for it, you can't get any other models to work. So there are all sorts of negating factors. The secondary factor is the schools don't have the budgets to invest in any of the educational learning that might not be core to Common Core or assessment. So you don't have this other side feeding the industry where it essentially acts as an investment vehicle and then a testing vehicle to go into entire school districts and test your products. I mean, our business that goes directly into schools is down 98% from 10 years ago. Schools just don't have the budgets. So you end up, you have to partner with brands. But I
would assert that they do have the budgets, but they're misspent in a whole bunch of other directions.
Absolutely, yeah. There's way too much money not being spent on enough of the different industries to really keep that startup business going, right? So there's not great invention on this side. There are people doing it, but they got to sell it to consumers, and you have to get past that 95% of people who want stuff to be free because they see this crap piece of thing that's free, and they expect your high-quality product to also be free. So it's
something I was going to mention. Remember the humongous games, putt-putt and all that? I raised my kids on those things. And I thought that there was a lot of subtle educational content in that, wrapped in a very compelling game.
And they were cool. You know, I look at it like, so as I studied, we studied Scooby-Doo, we studied all these great brands, and that's how we got to DreamWorks, and we said, we're gonna take the titles that you're gonna call your franchises, and that way I can get what I need, which is a 20-year legacy. We're not interested in one game. We need Jumpstart is on its 25th year. It's still our #1 producer revenue. And it will still be, because next year there'll be a bunch of new 4-year-olds, and they'll, you know, a high percentage of them will start using it. Even though it's only in one language, really only sells in one country. Because it turns out all those voiceovers are really difficult to do in all the languages, and the learning is very different. But, you know, when I get to Roger Goodell, it was a monumental moment last year when he said, okay, we'll break our model, we'll give you this license, we'll, you know, do a different type of deal than we've ever done in gaming, because I believe this is important. It took Roger Goodell at the NFL to say it was important, to make it enough that they would get out of there, let's go, you know, kill each other in these games, to, we're gonna go into education. So, I think the brands can change a lot of this.
So one word I haven't mentioned, and I don't think anyone yet has mentioned it, but that's the teacher. So maybe Osman, I know with for secondary educators, obviously it's a B2B business, but I have to think that there's an educator involved. What are your thoughts now with a K-8 or youth product about engagement, involvement, partnering, working, learning from teachers?
So, what I've seen in today's market, so as a company, we're first going to consumer ads. We're not going to teacher ads initially because of the time and the effort it takes to go through it. Now, where we see the teachers playing a role initially as far as Galaxy is concerned, is they begin to recommend the product to parents. Class Dojo has done a really good job of getting teachers to recommend the product to parents. And just touching on the question from before on breakout, I think a breakout product is going to most likely happen in the consumer market on the back of developing countries where the school infrastructure is even more poor, where parents are more used to spending on education because they know they're not going to get it in their school system. So I think a breakout product would happen on the back of Brazil, China, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, places like that, because the volume would really come from there. But teachers, I think in our generation and next, thinking of science, we are not going to be able to produce enough teachers to teach science from what the need is going to be globally. So games or education games and other things have to play a role in teaching, where non-science teachers can become classroom managers. So they have a very important role to play. But they may not be doing the instruction, they may be managing the classroom. So I think the software has to get smarter, where it can do the teaching but give the teacher the tools to manage the classroom. I had a surreal experience with a teacher in Silicon Valley, 7th grade science teacher. I went to see them to see, maybe if we're building the product out, what do you think we should be doing? And her response was that I don't want the kids to know too much about science when they come to my class because they become disruptive if they are ahead of what I'm teaching. This is actual, that's her challenge because she has a problem managing the classroom because now 3-4 kids are being disrupted. And those are the kids who in self-paced learning will be going way further than anything else. But this is a school in Palo Alto in Silicon Valley. That's almost the reality on the ground when it comes to teachers, because they do have their challenges. It's not like they don't want to do it, they want to do it. But they are trying to teach so many kids